So it's 6 o'clock. Let's get started. I would like to call the meeting of the Longmont Urban Renewal Authority Board of Commissioners to order for the October 25th, 2022, 3:25 meeting. I'm 43 minutes, and I got them all screwed up. So let's do roll call while I'm organizing my notes. Commissioner and Chair, Commissioner Yarborough.
Commissioner Chris.
Yeah, that's,
We're doing roll call.
okay, I didn't hear my name, I'm sorry.
No, you
say
have to say it. We're not calling names.
Oh,
We're going around the table. I'm sorry.
I'm present, I'm sorry.
You're present.
Berthel, Jim Berthel, present.
Commissioner Popkin present.
Commissioner Rodriguez. Cheryl Rodriguez.
Laura, maybe.
Commissioner McCoy. Commissioner Parker.
Commissioner McGilvray.
Commissioner Hidalgo Ferry.
Thank you. We are now going to, you know what, give me a second.
Do we need to get the other people in the room?
Yes, please. Let's start over with Chief Artist.
Secretary of Public Safety, Chief City of Longmont.
Sandy Cedar, City Manager's Office.
Jody Marsh, City Manager's Office.
Tony Chacon, Redevelopment Manager. Eugene May, City Attorney.
Elizabeth Reber, City Clerk's Office.
Okay, we're all here and accounted for. We have on our agenda tonight, as soon as I find it, why did I do this? Next meetings, there they are. The first thing on our agenda is the election of chairperson and vice chairperson. So I just found out through, who told me that according to the Secretary of State, thank you, that we elect chairperson and vice chair at the end of every year. But we didn't, or the beginning of the next. And of course, we're a little late, so we're going to do it tonight. And it is whoever would like to throw in their hat for chair or vice chair. It is not by default the mayor of the city or the mayor pro tem. So let's start first by, let's just have applicants from the floor who would ever like to be chair. I see people avoiding my eyes. I know that.
I would offer, if that's helpful, since most of the sites in question are in Ward 2, and I have professional experience in this space, but if that's not of interest to others, I'm not going to die on this hill.
I don't see a lot of other people throwing in their names, so Matthew. Is there anyone else that would like to be chair? Seeing no one else, Commissioner Popkins has thrown in his hat to be chairperson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of electing Commissioner Popkin as the chair of Longmont Urban Renewal Authority, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Congratulations. Yay!
Thank you.
And now we have to elect the vice chairperson. And vice chair, obviously, like every vice chair or mayor pro tem, would be available when the chair is not. So, do I see anyone that would love to do this job?
Every text me. And how often do they meet?
Monthly.
Should we have a representative from
Yeah.
your own side?
I think it would be nice if someone that was not on council was.
So we haven't met here. I'm willing to. No. Rock, paper, scissors, let's go.
I think this is pretty.
Chickpeas over there.
Yeah.
You can catch it.
So, Commissioner McGilvray has thrown in his hat for vice chair. Is anyone else that's interested? Seeing no one else, is there any discussion? Is there anything we want to know about these two? No.
Sorry, I'm new and I don't know you. Can you just show me a little bit about yourself?
Awesome, and then vice versa.
Sure.
So Chris McGilvray, I am a happily married father of two, a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old. You can see I am, I chair the Downtown Development Board of Directors. Wes is also on the board and been on that board for about 9 years. And we are very proud of what we've been able to do from a redevelopment perspective in our downtown. Let's see, I'm on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, the Longmont Chamber of Commerce. I'm a past chair of that board. I've been on that board for, 10 years. I'm currently on the board of the Longmont Economic Development Partnership. I represent Front Range Community College in that capacity. I am an academic dean at Front Range Community College, and I have the privilege of overseeing the Center of Integrated Manufacturing here in Longmont, which is the only centralized facility that houses 4 pathways to manufacturing, optics, machining, automation, electronics. What else? I'm a small business owner in downtown. I own Longmont Liquors in 2nd and Main in the historic Train Depot building. So it's huge Chiefs fan. I'm from Kansas, so.
So you were going, you were
I had to ruin
doing
You got me.
Is there anybody else that wants to run for vice chair? Okay, and go ahead.
Sure, just a little bit more other than recently appointed to City Council for Ward 2. I've, for I guess 2+ years, served on the Brownfield Advisory Committee for the city, working with development through Tony and Laura now, kind of advising on the reuse of different sites and properties. Previously served on the Planning and Zoning Commission for 2 years, the city, and then just professionally outside of Longmont, I've worked in the brownfields space, redevelopment space for a number of different economic reuses. First as a consultant to cities across the West Belt and Appalachia, and then more recently now as a technical assistance provider to communities across most of the country for reusing those properties for renewable energy purposes, but that's a separate reuse category that I do in my professional capacity there. So worked with communities that have sites as large as 1,500 acres of brownfield space, and communities that have far less than that, and how they leverage funding and financing to kind of create the right capital stacks to get to the reuse and redevelopment that the community desires. So, be happy to help.
Great. And Commissioner Pumpkin, you mentioned that most of the urban renewal areas were in your district, but you are aware that we, in our sugar mill factory area, we do have an urban renewal. So for you, we put you on that board, on this board, because, for me, because we were doing that urban renewal out there, and it's really important, so, okay. So we didn't vote. All those in favor of adding Chris McGilvray as vice chair of Lura, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Congratulations. That passes unanimously as well.
So,
Do you want to take over?
if
Please do.
Sure. With that, we'll move to the next agenda item for the approval of the minutes.
I move we approve. Do you want them separately?
Let's do them separately, yeah.
Do you want them in order of,
Let's take it in order.
okay. I move the approval of October 29th, 23rd for Longmont Urban Renewal Authority board minutes as presented.
All right, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
Multiple seconds. Any objections? Any discussion? All right, hearing none, so approved. Approval of the minutes, October 24th, 2023.
I move October 24th, 2023.
Do we need to
Oh, we
vote?
have to
We
vote
didn't
on it.
vote on the first one.
Took it as consent there, since there were no objections. But that's fine. We can, sorry, we had a motion and a second for the October 29th minutes from 2024. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, so approved. 3B, October 24th, 2023.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve. Seconds. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Question, that's discussion, go for it.
Not all of us were present for those minutes. Should we abstain from them?
The guidance that I have heard on other boards and commissions for the city is that you do not have to be present to approve. I think it's your call if you want to abstain or not. Council seems to agree. Thank you. Cool. We have a motion. Is there a second to approve?
Yes.
We have a second. Thank you, Commissioner Peck. Any further discussion? No. All those in favor? All those opposed? Any objections? Or any abstentions, excuse me? No, hearing none, so approved. Approval of the minutes, October 25th, 2022.
So moved.
Motion from Commissioner Peck,
Second.
second from multiple sources. Any discussion on this item?
Oh, my last name spelled wrong.
Okay, so friendly amendment to, is there a page number you can give us on there?
I don't know.
Make sure Commissioner Yarborough's name is spelled correctly.
There's no page number, but it's for October 2025. October 25.
All right, so motion is second if it's all right with a friendly amendment to make sure Commissioner Yarborough's name is spelled correctly. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. Thank you. So approved. We move on to item 4, review and approval of the Longmont Government Renewal Authority bylaws and intergovernmental agreements with the city of Longmont. Any discussion? Is there any discussion or motion? Do we have an action on this, or is this just a?
Says approval.
Approval, okay. So
I move to approve.
we have a motion to approve, thank you.
Second.
And multiple seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
Just didn't see that there were any changes. Were there any changes to them? Usually there's a red line or a blue.
Don't know about changes. Can someone speak to any changes in this from year to year?
Tony.
Can you tell me?
Yeah, I can speak to that. The Urban Renewal Authority has never had a set of bylaws or an IGA with the city, so this would be the initial IGA and bylaws. And it's not required under the statutes, but it's should be given serious consideration to have those rules.
Thank you, Tony. So this would be the inaugural bylaws.
Yes.
Authority, thank you. I had one or two clarifying questions on the bylaws that was written. There. Just this. Sorry. This is. No, maybe not. Maybe it's different.
There's a number on the bottom of each page.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find where it was. I think it was. Just looking for the notes in this. Yes, page 4 of this is Article 2, Section 1, so it's the duties of the city, subsection A. This is maybe just a substantive Oxford comma edit, but currently how it's written is providing such employees access to the full range of benefits offered to the city employees, including but not limited to life, health, and dental insurance. All of that makes sense, but my understanding is health and dental are separate. And this could read as that's combined. Is that a combined type of insurance that it's referring to that may not exist? I just want to make sure that this is either standard language grammatically. Legal counsel?
Is that the IGA or the bylaws?
This, I believe. Let's see.
That
Oh,
is
maybe it's the
I
IGA.
think it's the IGA.
Apologies, yes, it's in the IGA articles, subsection 1, sorry. Yeah, page 4 of the IGA.
Isn't the motion to approve the bylaws, not the IGA?
Okay, I think we were handling it as combined. Yeah. But question made me second guess myself for a moment.
Could you repeat that citation?
Yeah, I'm looking at Article 2, so Article 2, Section 1, subsection A, or sorry, A.
1BA, actually.
1BA, thank you. So yeah, Section 1BA, so it says life, health, and dental. That makes sense on its face. I just want to make sure the lack of a comma between health and dental doesn't jeopardize the type of insurance that's technically procured here.
There's 3 different systems.
And the reason I ask is there's inconsistent use of that third comma throughout the IGA, so I want to make sure that we are not meaning something that we don't, or limiting something.
If we want to get into grammar, I think the and makes it a separate category without a comma.
I won't pass it further. Any other
It's
questions?
an Oxford comma debate.
It is. Yeah. We can take offline. But there can be
I have some
substantive
thoughts on that. Yeah.
implications sometimes.
There has
Yes.
been litigation.
Yes, I know, there has.
Yes, like Supreme Court level.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Cool. Any other discussion or questions about the bylaws or the IGA? Seeing none, any motions? Or we already had the motion. It's just discussion. So we have a motion to approve in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? So approved. Thank you. Moving right along here, we are moving on to agenda item 5, a presentation process for creating new urban renewal plan areas and making substantial modifications to existing urban renewal plan areas with discussion. Laura, take it away.
All right. Well, I didn't introduce myself last time, and people reminded me of this, so I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Laura Moody, Executive Director of the Longmont Urban Renewal Authority. And so what we're going to do today is do a presentation. I know you all had a URA 101 in October. We thought we would dig into one issue in particular, and that's making a substantial modification to an existing plan. And it's the same, they're the same steps to create a new plan area. So I know we've talked about the possibility of creating a new plan area as well. So we thought we could do one presentation, go through the steps, and then talk about why we're bringing that up today. You know, we are talking about the idea of making a substantial modification to one of our plan areas. So we'll use that as our case study of what we're doing today, and then give you an update on the steps that we've already taken in that new plan. So. All right, so just a little refresher that urban renewal is about the elimination of blight in a community. And Colorado state law basically provides the mechanisms for urban renewal through the creation of urban renewal authorities and urban renewal plan areas. You know, specifically within Longmont, the Longmont Urban Renewal Authority was created in 2005. And again, since we are state statute driven, we do have seven city council members and the mayor. We have 3 members from the counties, the school district, and the special districts. And then we have 1 member appointed by the mayor with city council consent. So that's how we get to 11. As a reminder, this is always a difficult concept that an urban renewal authority is a separate entity from the city. So really they are, I know there is that overlap, but it really is a separate entity. And that it really, the focus is that elimination of blight. And it's not a taxing entity, and we cannot impose a property tax. So this can kind of help going through city council responsibilities and the Longmont Urban Renewal Authority Board responsibilities, and kind of explain a little bit about the different roles that the 2 bodies play. The first, so city council designates the blighted urban renewal areas. City council also approves the urban renewal project plans. It then jumps to the Longmont Urban Renewal Authority to oversee the implementation of these plans. So approval of plans, implementation of the plans. And that's how the two work together. Then within these project plans, you have these tasks, which they can be called activities, they can be called undertakings. It's the same thing. It's basically tasks within these areas, and they oversee these undertakings within the project areas. Then approve a budget and submit the budget to DOLA each year. So as a reminder, we have two urban renewal plan areas. The first is our Southeast Longmont Urban Renewal Plan area, and this is the one that we're going to be talking about a little bit later in the presentation. And the second is the Twin Peaks Mall Urban Renewal Plan area. So there are steps, and I'm not going to read all of these because I'm going to break it down in the next couple of slides, but it can be very confusing because activities can happen simultaneously, and there's also different bodies that do different parts of it. So I will break down the steps to execute. So the first is a blight study. So you need to send a notice of intent to the property owners of the area that you want to study, that you are going to execute a blight study on those properties. And as a reminder, blight is an analytical term, has specific characterizations that you need to meet in order to be designated blight. And so the blight study is then conducted to determine how many of these blight conditions exist on the properties. A urban renewal plan and a financial impact report are prepared for the area. The plan and the impact report are then sent to the county, and this starts a 120-day negotiation period. So this is where we get into the TIF allocation and the IGA negotiations. So I know we looked at this as tax increment financing in our URA 101, and just as a quick reminder, you have base, which is the red line, and you have increment. And what happens is the base, the tax base is paid to the taxing entities. So what we're discussing in this negotiation period is the allocation of the TIF, which is that line. And so that is what we're looking to reinvest into the area to that elimination of blight. So as I said, you send the plan and the impact report to the county. This starts the 120 days. You then execute or you draft IGAs and you negotiate the TIF of how much is going to be included in that reinvestment in the area. The Longmont Urban Renewal Authority then has 120 days to come to an agreement with the different taxing entities about that revenue share. And then if an agreement isn't reached, you then go to a mediation, and I won't go into those details. At that point, Planning Commission then reviews the plan for compliance with the city's comprehensive plan, and then the Planning Commission submits their recommendations on that compliance. So at that point, you take steps to approve the new plan or the modification. So that's when you go to public hearing to create the area, or the adoption plan, and then the public hearing then establishes the findings of blight and designates the new urban renewal area for adoption of that plan. Then at that point, once blight has been determined, you then send notification to the property owners that the area is blighted. And then Laura then approves these IGAs and proceeds to use the tax increment financing as this implementation of the plan. So what we want to talk about today is that the TIF financing for the Southeast Longmont Urban Renewal Plan. What we're talking about is this specific area right here, and this is a zoom of that. So establishing a TIF plot on this area so that we can start reinvesting in the area. And I want to talk through, and I'll kick it off with Tony, who's been working on this, and he can talk through going back to those steps that I outlined, where he is in the process of implementing the steps towards.
So, as you can see, the blue areas represent the urban renewal area, and you notice they're not contiguous with one another. There's nothing says that they have to be contiguous. So the plan that was approved includes those areas in blue. Now we're also showing other areas that could eventually be incorporated into that plan area or created as a separate plan area, depending in the future what's the best interest in terms of the tax area. So right now, this area could possibly be subdivided into upwards of 10 to 15 sub-areas. So every time that we want to create a tax increment for each of those areas, we would then have to be coming back to the City Council with a new plan or a plan amendment to be able to capture it. And then that whole process that was just outlined would start over again. And it only is in respect to that particular area where they were looking to capture the TIF. So in this case, what we're looking to do more immediately is start the first TIF district. I should say that TIF was never started in the Southeast Urban and Renewal area. So right now, we can start TIFs and we can capture the 25 years worth of tax increment on each area as it is enacted. So the start area, which represents this area, is basically the area around 2nd and Martin. You will notice right now there's construction going up on that area there. But under the rules, if we adopt a plan and get agreements this year, then we can capture the increment for that project. Okay, so it's up to a negotiation with the various entities to see how much of that increment we could capture. And the reason we're starting this is because we anticipate the need for substantial revenue stream to eventually redevelop this whole sugar mill area, not just the sugar mill properties, but the bigger area. And so this would be the first step in starting to capture some of that revenue. So where we're at right now, the blight study's been done, the notices have been sent out. In fact, we've already got people that have reached out to us asking what's going on. And when we explained it to them, they don't have any problem with it. So right now we have the plan amendment completed. We have the impact report completed. And so the next step is to deliver that product to the county under the statute. It doesn't have to be delivered to any of the other entities, just the county, to start the 120-day clock of negotiation. Now that doesn't mean we aren't going to be giving information to the other entities. We would just be very selective as it relates to their impacts on their various jurisdictions in that regard. So that's where we're right now. And so the first thing would be reaching out to Boulder County, advising them that we're going to be giving them this plan, starting the clock, and then that starts that negotiation period. And just let you know, we don't have to fulfill the whole 120 days. If you come to agreement sooner, you're okay. It's just that once it exceeds 120 days, then the Urban Renewal Authority can go to mediation. They don't have to, but they can go to mediation at that time.
Just out of curiosity, Tony, excuse me, is that area in an enterprise or opportunity zone?
I believe It's in an enterprise zone, and yeah, it is an opportunity because it actually goes out to 119th Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will that help revenue-wise, or?
It has no impact in terms of the tax increment,
Right.
but it could have some benefit through those other mechanisms as leveraging. So you could use the tax increment as leveraging some of those resources that may be available out there.
Okay.
Just to piggyback on that question, so but those like opportunities on an enterprise zone would be more of a private sector incentive for on the reinvestment side, and then the renewal authority would bring TIF to the table with research.
It's part, yeah, what we call the capital stack. So basically, that have different funding sources to get to the full revenue needs, whatever they might be, which typically includes a private level of private equity too.
But it's an incentive for private equity to come in, which,
Well, that's where the Urban Renewal Authority board comes into play because you will be then asked on occasion for some contribution of tax increment proceeds possibly to help some projects.
okay,
And that's a decision of the board as to whether or not they need that money and how much they want and how much the board is willing to give, if anything at all.
okay.
Okay, that's the discretion of the board.
And then that funding would only be spent within the approved urban renewal area.
Yeah, that's a good question. So even though we're looking to capture this area here immediately, any monies generated from here can be applied to anywhere in the blue areas right now. So it can be spent within the urban renewal area that's defined, not just within the TIF area. So that's a very good question because right there you can see if you have 10 of these, collectively have a source of money that could really help maybe over here on the project.
So you have, sorry,
Where you go?
but what role do we play, the Laura, in regards to that 120-day negotiation?
So Laura is technically the negotiating party, and the IGAs that will be created as a result are between the Laura board and the taxing entities. They're not between the city and the taxing entities, it's between the Laura board and the taxing entities. Now, the city plays an important role because they can participate and assist in those negotiations to optimize the level of funding that we possibly get. Yeah.
So then, just to carry out the whole area of my thinking, crazy thinking process, is, for example, the steam area section and the Hillshock area. Once they have gone through the after this last word, the process to be,
To become a TIF area.
yes, then that just increases the amount of dollars for the
Right.
entire area.
Yeah, so what happens is the TIF area is basically a pool. There would be a fund called the Southeast Longmont Urban Renewal
Okay.
Area
Okay.
Fund.
Okay.
And any monies generated within that entire area, even if it's multiple TIF areas, goes into that particular fund.
Okay, great.
And you've done blight surveys for each segment?
So the blight study was done when the initial plan was completed. So there was a blight study that covered the entire area. You only have, on a plan amendment, or even a new plan, you only have to do the blight study as it pertains to that particular piece that you're working on. So in this case, we only had to update the blight study on this area. And there is a statutory requirement that I think it's every 7 years.
7 years.
You have to update the blight study if it has not been updated in that period of time.
If you are doing something, like
Right.
a major
Yeah,
modification.
you don't just,
Okay.
just whenever you decide to do a plan amendment on an existing area.
Okay.
So Tony, real quick, if you can capture the tip in this, even though the project's already started, you can capture that to use it in another area there that we might need it more.
Right, yeah. And so the reason you can capture it is because the base year is set the year prior. So the base year is actually last year, see, until they reassess. So if we do it this year, then we we're able to have something that should be considered a lower assessment. Just to let you know, on this one, it may not work out that way because we're converting commercial land to residential land, so the tax rate changes. And so it kind of, there's an offset there. But just based on my calculations, Laura would be better off going ahead and initiating it this year, capturing base from last year.
So really, it's an optimization.
Yeah, it's, you kind of look at
the
the
value of the improved area.
and the challenge is it's kind of hard to. So they're already doing the reassessments, right? And so we just don't know what that valuation is on a 50% completed project. It's kind of hard.
Other questions or discussion?
Without getting in the weeds, just keeping it 30,000 feet in the air, I mean, I think what would help this board is to have, like, what's the current landscape of blight studies in the city, of like, what is blighted?
Across the city?
Yeah, if we had,
Well,
maybe that's for a future meeting, say, hey, here's the landscape.
just let you know, I mean,
Different
that's
concept,
one.
What's different?
Is it?
Yeah, so there's like, what is 11 criteria? Yeah, so there's 11 criteria, they're rather broad categories, but at any time, either the city council or the Laura board can look at an area of city where they think that might be a consideration for a possible urban renewal area. And at that time, you can direct staff to proceed with a blight study for that particular area. Okay. Now, again, you get the blight study done does not mean you have to act on it. It's just if you do want to create the urban renewal area, you have to, the city council has to establish that the area is blighted. Therefore, you can create the area.
I have one quick question that goes back a little bit to what you were speaking about how the board is set up. The mayor has one appointed. Where is that person? Because I'm counting.
Chris.
Oh, I thought I got 1, 2.
The county representative's never here.
And I'm,
Oh,
this is with
yeah, we're trying to do the county.
district rep over here. So.
Okay, so I'm trying to do the math in my head.
And just like right now, the one rep we do not have in attendance is representing the county, and that's because they just had a more immediate change in that appointment.
Oh, okay, just trying to count it.
No, I don't know.
Oh,
we just found out about
okay.
it the other day, so
I don't
we're
think
going to be
they-
advised here shortly.
They just realized that the person was supposed to be here and no longer works for the county, so they've got a little stuff to do.
Just a bit of it, that's the second person that the county we've lost ever since we created the board.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never met Tony.
Yeah.
Alright, so I've got a question.
Yeah.
So I've got a little empty Safeway store up in the northeast quadrant of the city.
Yeah.
It's been empty for 7 years and we keep talking about what's gonna happen there.
Mhm.
If we were to do a blight study, does that have to include the whole area? I mean, some of those stores are saying that they have trouble with.
Well, it has to be based on ownership boundaries. Okay, so you can't just say that just this little carve out this little piece. So, but it can be as big as you want, it can be as small as you want.
I don't think Safeway owns that whole area, I think they
Yeah, but the thing you gotta,
Specific area.
usually you work with a little bit bigger area because that parcel may have 1 or 2 identification points, but the statute requires at least 4.
own.
So like along North Main, we've had a discussion on
Yeah,
that.
I'll tell you, North Main, you
We have
will
these
probably
areas.
find at least 4 conditions if you chose to pursue that.
So to answer, I think your question, you don't need every property to have all the conditions. You just need the defining conditions over the entire area.
Good.
So it's not a specific, this property only has 3 conditions, that property has 8 conditions. If you have enough conditions to meet the criteria of the entire area, you can declare that area blighted. Is that where your question is going?
Yes.
Okay.
And it doesn't say, property doesn't even have to have a condition of blight on it. Let's say it's in the middle and it has no conditions, it's still the area that applies, not just the parcels of land.
The statute is vague. It says define your area as narrowly as possible. So, I know that has changed over the years. Of a community I used to work in, their area had 700 properties to it. And that's no longer done because the definition of narrowly as possible is seen as a smaller scope than 700 properties.
And I will say it's also a benefit to have a smaller area because
I would think.
if you have too big of an area and you put the tip on the entire area, there's a possibility you're going to lose value from some of those areas because you can't redevelop that quickly, effectively.
So how would we initiate a blight study for that area of Pace and on the east side of Pace?
Well, it's at the direction of the board, and I would assume we'd like to consult with the city manager in terms of staff capacity. As of right now, there's two ways you can do it. You can actually have staff do the blight study, or you can hire a consultant. So again, there's either financial capacity or staffing capacity. So, it may be worthwhile having a discussion and keeping that as part of that. The one thing you could possibly do is have staff do a cursory evaluation, which is identify an area you'd like them to look at and just have staff go out there and say, observation-wise, yeah, you might have a few of these, and it might be worthwhile. Just let you know, a blight study can run you about 15, 20,000.
And Laura, or who are we talking about?
We most probably be it.
Harold is talking, so, yeah, okay.
Yeah, usually, I mean, you want somebody that knows what blight conditions are as it relates to the statutes, and myself and Laura are pretty astute about knowing what those might be.
Yeah, okay. Let's go have lunch over there sometime.
Good. Other further questions or discussion? Otherwise, just to clarify the process, that you're bringing this proposed amendment for the current urban renewal area, and then we vote to approve that today, or do we vote to recommend that to?
There's actually no action. The next step would be coordinating with Harold here to have that discussion and the delivery of the product to the county. Yes.
So we just say thank you for the presentation today.
Yeah, it's just more of an advisory. This would be the next step, and high likelihood that we're going to take this.
To build awareness that this is happening, that we have started the process to create this plan amendment and just making the board aware of this process.
So you take it to the county and then we sort of wait for 120 days?
No.
Does it
Once they get the
faster?
report, the staff can start talking to each of the taxing entities to
If it happens
negotiate.
before then, it happens before then. If they settle before then,
And if they settle before those 120 days, yeah, you can move it forward in terms of the IGAs to the board.
How often does that happen?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's really, maybe very rare anybody goes to the 120 because the negotiation is back and forth, there's give and take. And, I think it depends on the entity too. In this regards, I think, you can see where Boulder County's most probably really wants to do something with this area here. The school district, we'd have, of course, work the school district. The one thing about school districts is they get backfilled by the state, except for the mill levy override part. So the negotiation actually usually involves that piece. It really doesn't involve the rest of it because they're going to get that money anyway.
I think what we did on the Twin Peaks TIF is we didn't touch the mill levy override,
Right.
but they agreed to take the rest of the increment that was being backfilled by the state.
And that's kind of typical protocol.
Yeah.
The one good thing is we don't have a fire district.
Great. I want to be respectful of time here and recognizing that multiple commissioners have a different seat to fill in a few minutes. Any final questions before we thank Laura and Tony for their presentation?
Is the county always involved, Tony, or is it, do they have to have an interest?
They have to be involved in the negotiations. You don't have to reach out to them if you don't want any of their tax increment. But if you do want, so again, it's anybody that basically has property tax, you have to talk to them. Yeah. So I think in this case, I think we have 5 or 6 jurisdictions, which is not too bad. There's some jurisdictions like Aurora, has something like 30 to work with sometimes.
Well, that's not bad.
It's called
Thank
Metro Districts.
Thank you, that was a very good
Do you need a
presentation.
motion to adjourn?
Thanks.
Good, thank you, Laura and Tony. I will move that we adjourn. I hear a second. Any objections? Any discussion? Hearing none, so adjourned. Thank you. Have a good day.